One of the most common responses I hear when I talk about artist development is this: but we already have it. And in many ways, that's true. We have extraordinary schools, outstanding universities, conservatories, youth art programs, community organisations, publishers, managers, record labels, funding bodies. It just goes on and on. And this is across the world. Thousands of remarkable people wake up every morning dedicating their lives to helping artists grow. So perhaps the question isn't, do we have artist development? I think we do. Perhaps the better question is, do we have an artist development system? Because those are not the same thing. That distinction took me years to understand. At first, I thought we simply needed more opportunities, better programs, better funding, better mentoring. But the longer I worked across different parts of the arts, the more I noticed something. Nobody was doing anything wrong. Schools were doing exactly what schools were designed to do. Universities were doing exactly what universities were designed to do. Labels were doing exactly what labels were designed to do. Art organisations, same thing. Everywhere I looked, I found passionate people doing extraordinary work. And yet, artists still describe their journey in remarkably similar ways. Confusing, fragmented, uncertain, as though every time they reached the end of one experience, they had to figure out, well, where do I go next? That's when I realised perhaps the problem wasn't the quality of the parts. Perhaps it was the space between them. The more I observed, the more I realised something. Every organisation has a developmental horizon. Not because it's limited, because it has a purpose. A primary school has a developmental horizon. Its role isn't to develop an artist for life. Its role is to develop a child to the point where they're ready for what comes next. A high school has a developmental horizon. A university has one. A conservatorium has one. Youth arts organisations, a mentoring program, record labels, publisher, a funding body, they all have developmental horizons. Even a mentor has one. Some horizons are longer than others. Some overlap. Some intentionally connect two paths of the journey. Many remarkable organisations work incredibly hard to extend that horizon as far as they possibly can. And that's exactly what they should do. Because every one of them exists to do a particular job at a particular point in someone's development. The horizon isn't a weakness, it's their purpose. The problem isn't that those horizons exist. The problem is that we've often expected artists to find the next one on their own. Imagine asking every medical student to work out for themselves what comes after medical school. Imagine asking every elite athlete to guess which coach they should find next, or when they should move into high-performance training. We wouldn't call that a developmental system. We'd call it luck. Artists do it every day. Finish school, now what? Finish university, now what? Release your first song, now what? Leave a record label, now what? Become a parent, now what? Take 5 years away from your craft, and now what? The horizons aren't the problem. Crossing them alone is. And that's when I began to wonder, what if the purpose of a developmental system isn't to remove the horizons, but to connect them? Connecting horizons isn't simply about introducing artists to the next organisation. It's about making sure the journey continues. Because imagine what happens today. A young artist leaves one environment and enters another. The new mentor doesn't always know what the previous mentor was developing. The university doesn't necessarily know what the school was trying to achieve. The record label doesn't necessarily understand the developmental journey that came before. Not because people don't care, not because they're doing anything wrong, because there's no shared developmental language. Every organisation is trying to help, but they're often describing development in completely different ways. One talks about talent, one talks about performance, another talks about employability, another talks about commercial readiness, another talks about well-being. Each perspective is valuable. Each sees an important part of the artist, but none of them sees the whole journey. That's when I realised a developmental system isn't simply a pathway. It's a shared way of understanding development itself. A common language, a shared map. Not so everyone does the same job, but so everyone understands where the artist is, what they're experiencing, and what they may need next. Imagine what that would make possible. A teacher could prepare an artist not for the end of school, but for the horizon beyond it. A university could build on rather than begin again. A mentor could understand where another mentor left off. A record label could recognize not just commercial potential, but developmental readiness. How about parents? Parents could understand why uncertainty is normal. And artists, well, they could recognize that where they are today isn't failure. It's simply part of a much longer journey. That's when disconnected opportunities become a developmental system. Not because everyone is doing the same thing, but because everyone understands how their contribution connects to everyone else's. Now imagine what becomes possible when every organisation still does exactly what it was created to do, but no longer does it alone. Schools continue inspiring young artists. Universities continue deepening knowledge and practice. Youth organisations continue creating opportunities. Mentors continue sharing wisdom. Record labels continue building careers. Publishers continue protecting creative work. And funding bodies, they continue investing in possibility. Nothing needs to stop being what it already is. The difference is they're no longer working beside one another, they're working with one another, not because they belong to the same organisation, because they belong to the same developmental journey. For the artist, that changes everything. Crossing a horizon no longer feels like falling into the unknown. It feels like continuing a journey. They don't have to start from zero. They don't have to reinvent themselves. They don't have to guess where they belong, because every horizon already sees the next. And perhaps that's what a developmental system has always been. Not a single institution, not a single program or a single organisation, but a shared commitment to making sure no human being has to navigate their development alone. Maybe that's the opportunity in front of us, not to replace what already exists, but to connect it. To create a shared language, a shared understanding, a shared commitment to the lifelong development of artists. Because perhaps the greatest developmental systems aren't remembered for the organisations they built. They're remembered for the people they helped become who they were capable of becoming. And maybe that's the next horizon.